you just shared with me off camera, sharing that story about being in the ocean as a baby, wanting to be birthed in the ocean. And when you told some other people in your life, they just laughed it off like, oh, that wasn't important. But it is, right?
But I think it is. I think it is that this strong connection to water comes from the very, very beginning of our being. And I said about the tingling sensation. Of course, it's not as if I'm getting electrocuted, that's so strong, but it is tingling. It is calling you into the water.
Right. It is this embodied experience that you're feeling that
Yeah.
I mean, I have had that tingling sensation with other landscapes, so I know that experience, and it is absolutely real.
Delicate.
It's
Real, but delicate.
subtle. It is subtle, so to be open to that, and what I can say from my own experience of that feeling is it just kind of rises up into my heart area.
Completely
And you just feel like a pull, right? But you just feel compelled.
compelled. You feel compelled. It goes back to your very beginning, and I'm sure it's got something to do with the very essence of when you came to this universe.
Welcome to the Enchanted Earth Podcast, where you will hear stories of nature with the power to transform our lives. These sacred stories are begging to be shared now. So listen in as my guest today shares one of their own.
Well, hello, everybody. Today we have with us Odile Smith, and let me tell you a little bit about Odile. She has spent most of her career in sourcing and procurement, always with an eye on sustainability, even before it became a buzzword. Over the years, she's worked with countless brands and suppliers, but one thing that's always been at the core of what she does is a deep concern for how her work impacts both people and the planet. So, welcome, Odile, to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we've known each other for quite a few years in the biophilic design community, which I'm kind of on the fringe of because I'm in many different worlds. So I'm just one of those people, and I'm sure you are as well. You
Mhm.
you have such a gift for finding just amazing art and artisans and bringing them to the world. Can you just share a little bit about that?
I will absolutely. I'm pleased to say this because this is something which I really, really treasure. And I've always treasured it because I would have liked to be an artist, but I'm not an artist because I didn't think I had time. But I was always, ever since I was in my 20s, always going out to, art galleries. And then as I started in buying, you always look for inspiration for something. Okay, so we had to create collections. And the inspirations would literally come from small workshops. Okay. So we would go and I would walk into these workshops and I created this kind of it's a deep respect for these people who have decided to take on um, artisan workshop I'm creating their own artisan workshop. And the thing which I really loved about it is that often, I live in Italy, so there are a lot of artisans, and often the artisans are of the same place and they usually work the local material. So if you go to Calamia, you're going to find a lot of people who are working on marble. If you go to Florence, you're going to have a lot of artisans who are Florentine, who work maybe, for example, leather. So it really sort of dabs into this genius logic, which I found absolutely fascinating because it's so linked to their heritage and to their territory and to the spirits of the place, of course. So it started when I was in my 20s and then it sort of progressed and I had the opportunity to develop it because of my work.
Oh, that's wonderful. One of the really amazing things is infusing with the spirit of the place, the actual materials from the place. And and the local culture.
Yes, and then it goes from generation to generation. It's the heart through the hands. And it develops over time. You can't study these kind of things because you've got to feel the actual material through your hands.
Oh, beautiful. So I'd just like to open it up to see what you'd like to share.
So I would like to share with you something which I'm sure we have talked about before, and this is this kind of calling, which you feel inside of me towards water, and in particular towards seawater. Okay. And I am sure and I am certain this is something which happens to a lot of people who were born by the sea. Okay. So you were born by the sea, you grew up by the sea, and life circumstances brought you to go away. And I'll never forget when I left, one of my bosses at the time, he turned around to me and said, the people who leave Genoa always come back. And at the time, okay, I was young, I wanted to go and conquer the world, you do this and that. But there has always been, even when I was younger, this call to go back to the water. And I'm not just speaking about the city, I'm literally speaking about the shore, okay, sitting on the shore and going inside the water. So it's not just a matter of, I want to go, and lie on the beach or splash around in the summer. Because this happens that you want to go there even in the winter, even when there is the storm, you miss the smell of the sea, the touch of the water on your skin. And I think that also that it differs from location to location. Okay. So all sea isn't, water and sea is the same, but there is something about going back to your roots, should I say, or where you were grown up, and feeling that kind of water embrace you, because you really feel that it's like a mother embracing you, when you go in that particular kind of water.
Yes, yes. Now, so your childhood was there. You spent a lot of time at the shore.
Uh-huh.
Do you have any particular experience, either a child or an adult, that we can really kind of get into and experience with you?
Okay, so there are several, and I must take a step back because obviously I take things for granted and people don't know them. So I was born in Malta. Okay.
Oh.
I was born in Malta, which is in the middle of the Mediterranean. And when I was born, my mother was literally swimming in the sea and her waters broke and she had to get out had to come out. So I think this connection through my mother, obviously, because, she wanted to stay in the water. She didn't want to go out under 40 degrees in the sun and go and give birth. So that is where I was born, and that is where I grew up. And it's a place where you are living on the sea and in the sea. I think 10 months a year. Okay, maybe there's 2 months you don't go because it is a warm country, and you go there. And then we moved to Italy, but still by the sea because my father was working with ships. And now I feel that even not so long ago, okay, maybe even just a couple of months ago, when I walk on the shores, I have this tingling feeling in my feet, okay, which really makes you want to go into the water. It's almost an irresistible urge. Now, I can't say I had a vision or anything, but it's as if you feel embraced.
Yeah.
And so that is something which kind of relaxes you. It gives you an immediate sense of relaxation.
Yeah.
So when I go in, suddenly everything's, and being part of it, that you are inside where you are supposed. I don't say as if you're in your womb, because I can't remember what I felt like when I was in the womb of my mother. But it's the tingling feeling before you go, okay? And then when you are inside, the water which wraps you. And it's a bit, it's a calling, and yeah, it's wrapping you. I don't have to say otherwise to give this feeling.
Would you, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but would you say something like an experience of unity consciousness or oneness?
Oneness for sure, 100%. It's a oneness. That's what I meant by saying you kind of wrap it into it, because it's a sense of coming home. You know, telling you this is where you belong. Now, otherwise you feel as if I feel I'm a mermaid, like little children might feel like. But no, it's deeper. You see what I mean? And that is why you keep getting called to come back. We know that water is such an important element for us. And I think it's even more so than a lot, because if I speak to the rest of my family or friends, they don't seem to have this such a strong calling. You know what I mean? Apart from maybe my brothers or my sisters.
So you were talking about the experience of walking on the beach and then having this tingling sensation rise up through the bottom of your feet. Now, I think that's amazing. I love the ocean. I was born and raised on Long Island outside of New York City. Spent a good part of my childhood at the beach and really, really love it and feel a strong connection to it. However, I can say that I have not felt that tingling sensation in the bottom of my feet. So I think that's just so magical. Like, I think maybe sometimes we don't notice it. We just miss it. We come up with all sorts of reasons. And you just shared with me off camera, sharing that story about being in the ocean as a baby, wanting to be birthed in the ocean. And when you told some other people in your life, they just laughed it off like, oh, that wasn't important. But it is, right?
But I think it is. I think it is because as I said, my son from a very young age was connected to nature, and I am sure that this strong connection to water comes from the very, very beginning of our being. And I said about the tingling sensation, of course, it's not as if I'm getting electrocuted, that's so strong, but it is tingling. It is calling you into the water.
Right. It is this embodied experience that you're feeling that,
Yeah.
I mean, I have had that tingling sensation with other landscapes. So I know that experience and it is absolutely real.
Delicate.
It's
Real, but delicate.
subtle. It is. It is subtle. It's not like, wow, it's subtle and you can easily dismiss it because it's so subtle. So to be open to that, and what I can say from my own experience of that feeling is it just kind of rises up into my heart area. Like you just feel like a pull, right? But you just feel compelled.
Compelled. You feel compelled, pulled. And then when you go in, embrace. And yes, and as you said, and as I said also, it goes back to your very beginning, you know, and I'm sure it's got something to do with the very essence of when you came to this universe.
Yes. Yes. Oh, that's beautiful. I'm so glad we were able to chat about that.
And company, for example, doesn't have this kind of strong pull, this urge, this need to go in and feel the embrace.
Not well, we're all unique, right? But I think that perhaps there's certain aspects of the natural world that we're kind of drawn to if we're aware and open to feeling that draw. But from my experience of speaking with so many people, doing this podcast and doing my book, I do get a sense that there's a level of openness with our heart that allows us to feel that pull, that taint.
And I absolutely agree with you. And now I was speaking about my personal experience towards my pull towards water, because that is, I think, my element. That's where I belong. And as you say, that's my truth of oneness. But this kind of dialogue that nature gives us, I think was also very significant when I had a few issues with my son. Because my son, when he came, had a lot of problems. He had a lot of skin problems and he wasn't peaceful with himself. He had a few issues. And I really, really didn't know what to do. And it was one day when I was walking and I realized that it was the nature school. So I went to a Steiner school, but it's based on nature. And it was as if it spoke to me to tell me to go there, that this is what he needed. Or you can call it instinct, you can call it that nature had some kind of dialogue with you. It wasn't rational. There was nothing rational about it because I didn't know anything about these kinds of schools.
Were you were you by the water? Is this where it happened, or was this not in?
No. It was in a forest. It was a walk in the forest. And I knew that, it's the forest which is making me feel calm, good. And that is what he needed. But as I said, I didn't know anything about wood nature schools. I didn't know what biophilia was. It was much before this all came out. But this call towards it, the fact that when I went home and I told my husband, he's got to go to this nature school. This is a world of inspired school. But I knew that was his right choice. And I am 100% convinced now that he is an adult that it was the right choice, because it allowed him to feel grounded with himself, accept himself for his strengths and his weaknesses without, conforming too much to the box, without being put into a box. And I think also it is this connection with nature, this dialogue which they developed with nature, which allowed him to be a freer spirit, that a lot of classes were done outside, that they are encouraged immediately since preschool to do gardening, to look after plants, to do things to that extent. It definitely contributed to calming him and allowing to evolve as the beautiful human being that he is. And I think it was nature directly to let me have this eaten, because I'm like, well, how would I have known? Right. I often ask myself, I said, how would I have known? I had known nothing about these schools.
Right. Well, yeah. When we're open, nature can direct us to the right path. If we're in a quandary, if we're kind of questioning what to do, I find personally going out into nature is the thing that really helps me. If it's only just calming anxiety and making me feel more grounded so that it frees me up then to discover new solutions, or I'm getting sometimes messages from my environment of what to do. So that's beautiful.
Yeah, and I think it was more than for me, it was for him, because he is very connected to, should I say, the green world rather than the blue world with whom I am connected. It was a calling for him, not so much for me, because I so convinced that my go-to place has got to be inside the water. with the amount of anxiety and things to that extent can surround our world. Going home to the oneness and to the stillness of water.
And your story also has that amazing connection with your mother, breaking her water while swimming in the ocean, the sea. You were saying, I'm ready now. I want to come out while she was in the sea. I mean, if we were in any other time, she might have actually given birth to you in the water.
Yeah, I think about that a lot. And I think, well, no, there must be something. And because every time it's my birthday, my mother goes, but oh, you made me suffer 40 degrees in the sun. I was so happy in the water. So yeah, she was loud, basically, because that's the way it was. And yes, I'm convinced that there is something there.
Yeah.
It's not that it's through her, it's the whole mixture of things.
You know, Odile, it's fascinating, but the last few interviews that I've had water has been the main focus of every story. And different experiences of water and rivers and lakes and yeah, it's really magical.
Yeah. Water is such an important element. I mean, I'm not very good at remembering quotes, but someone said the earth should have been called water because it's mostly water.
It's so true. And what's really interesting coming out more now with kind of fringe quantum physics, but talking about how water is condensed light. And the light actually carries with it coded information, consciousness, and that it comes from the cosmos and it lands on this planet, right? If you think about light from all different areas of the universe coming down, I mean, we're getting a lot of solar activity right now, but we're also getting light from the interstellar comets that are going by and even other comets that are in the area, and of course light from all the planets, and the water absorbs all that information, right? I mean, if we look at Dr. Masaru Emoto's work, right, where he froze water crystals that were exposed to love versus anger and hate, and the formation of the crystals were quite spectacular when it got to peace and love and understanding, and quite malformed with the lower emotions. So it just shows, right, that our bodies are 70% water. We're absorbing the energy around us, the words spoken, the music, all the sound frequencies. And water is carrier of all of that.
And water regenerates us, literally. So when I speak about feeling one, feeling wrapped, it is very much an ideal coming back and getting back your nature, going back home, going back. It's almost as if you're going back inside the womb. You see what I mean? Going back inside to your fetal moments.
Yeah, and I mean, it's logical that we don't remember those experiences in the womb, but there's some part of us that does. It's unconscious, and those memories are there. So you live by a lake. Why don't you live by the ocean?
Well, we are going to go there. Well, we hope within a year we're going to go back to the sea because my husband comes from this area, so This is when we got married. This is where I came. A big city where I was working. Now, of course, the children were small. We didn't want to move, but it's 100% as soon as we are free, we're going to go back.
Oh,
But
wonderful.
we're going to go back exactly to the sea I want to go back to, because we did look at options in other areas. And I said, no, I want to go home.
So you're going to go back to Genoa?
I'm going to go back, not inside Genoa, but, on the Ligurian coast. For sure.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share with us to wrap up our conversation?
Gosh, I think people don't realize, and then when they do realize, we don't realize sometimes how important nature is for us and the impact it has on us. And sometimes we don't stop and think of the single experiences we live, that when you do, you just live in a completely different mindset and world, what kind of world. So, and I say, sometimes it comes through people. In my case, it came through my youngest son, who sort of made me stop and think. And then you look at things in a different way. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Things may happen, and if you are not with your eyes wide open, as you said, people are not open to listen. So you've got to realize that at one point you will realize, because it will come to us sooner or later. Everyone at a different stage of their life. Some people come very early. As I said, for my son, it came very, very early. He lives for nature.
Yeah. I think also these generations that are being born in this century are much more attuned to their needs in relationship to the natural world.
Yeah, I think we were bulldozed a bit when we were in our, 70s, 80s, got to be super productive and now we're all sort of realizing, what the hell have we been doing?
Yeah. At least we're waking up. So that's fabulous. Oh, well, thank you so much for being on here today, Odile. It's been such a pleasure.
Well, thank you, Maureen. I really love always speaking to you. And you're very dear to my heart ever since the very beginning when I approached this world.
Oh, thank you. And everybody who's watching, listening, please comment. We will reply to your comments. Would love to hear what this brings up for you. Please share and subscribe. And I hope you have a fabulous day.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a part of the Enchanted Earth Podcast. Please hit the subscribe button so that you'll know when we publish another inspiring episode. Check out my book, The Enchanted Earth, available wherever online books are sold. Thank you and have a magical day.